Hi everyone, my name is Ryan Booz. I'm a developer advocate here at Timescale. And for Timescale Tuesday this week, I want to start talking to you about some of our analytic functions and some really fun things that you can do with them. And honestly, for some of this was new for me today. And so I was actually planning to do one of the other analytical functions today based on some user questions that I've had recently in our Slack channel. But then this morning, we ended up in a conversation internally at Timescale about a question that really revolved around first and last, these functions we provide as part of Timescale. And what came out of that conversation was new for me, blew my mind away a little bit. One of the engineers here at Timescale, David Cohn, really helped me understand some new things about how I could use these functions. And man, I've been having a lot of fun trying to figure out some use cases for it. So this is a two-part, at least, around first and last, these analytical functions we provide. This week, I just want to show you SQL, how you can use them, and something new that I didn't actually understand about first and last because I had never thought to use them differently than what we document. So let me show you the documentation, and this might really start to spur some ideas for you. So this is the documentation for last. It is found under our API reference under the analytics section. These are the analytical functions we provide as part of Timescale when you install Timescale. So you'll notice that in this documentation, and this is how I've always used it, we talk about ordering the data. This is how you use the function in an aggregate query. Essentially, this means that we're going to return the column temperature, and we're going to give you one temperature back. It's kind of like order descending limit 1 based on whatever the next column is. In this case, we said time. So order your temperatures by time descending and give me the first one, the last one in that set for that bucket, right? So if I'm bucketing it by hour, it'd be the last temperature per hour bucket that you have within that bucket. Now, if your data isn't coming in, very consistently, maybe for one bucket of time, that's, at 59 minutes, it's right at the end of the hour. Maybe for another bucket of time, a sensor stopped reporting and it's maybe halfway through the hour. So that's when this can become really helpful. Within each bucket, order by something like time, and you're going to get the most recent reading in that bucket for the thing that you're grouping by. It turns out, and I didn't know this, that this second column doesn't have to be time. You can order the data from the hypertable that you're aggregating by any column in that hypertable. Well, this, based on the conversation we were having, opens up some really interesting opportunities to me, and I just thought it'd be fun to show you that. Now, I'm going to go first, before I go anywhere, I want to make sure that I highlight this warning. This might not end up being the exact use case for you. You really need to test what I'm about to show you if it's intriguing and you want to play with it. In your production application, depending on the size and what you're trying to do, you might need to tweak this. You might need to really think about it. And I'm going to show you, at least next week, a little bit this week, but also next week, how to get a sense of how efficient the query is and whether this is the right thing for you. So now let's go look at this. Based on what I just told you and hope that you can remember, that second column doesn't always have to be time. So for scope, I just wanted to show you this. We have, in this database I am using, I have 20 billion, 19 billion rows, something like that. Every day, so this is 1 day's worth of time, I have 144 million rows of data. There are 10 readings per row, 10 metrics, and so that means I have 1.4 billion metrics per day. There are 100,000 hosts. This is fake data measuring computer statistics, things like CPU usage, system usage, things like that. Okay, so that's our scenario. It's an example. It doesn't mean it's exactly your use case, and this data is fake. It's generated data. There's just a lot of it, so I can really show you some of this. So in this data, we have a reference table called tags so that you can filter on things about each computer. And so anytime you see tags ID like this, just think of computer. All right. So I'm looking at, in this case, the first 100 computers from the tags table. Right. And so that tags table has things like what region is this computer in? What is the rack in that specific data center that this computer's in? Things like that. So we have 144 million rows for this day. And this is what a lot of people would do. We would say, give me the max usage. I'm going to get the user usage value for each time bucket for that day. And so that's all this query does. I'm doing an hour time bucket, getting the max usage, and I'm going to give the host back. Now this is pretty quick. This is just the IDE took a second to connect, but that query took about 200 seconds. It's actually hidden right behind me in the UI, so you can't see it. You have to take my word for it. It took about 200 milliseconds, and you can see, that was consuming 144 million rows of data. I'm going directly to the hyper table. So that's pretty quick for 100 items. I feel like that's a pretty good deal. And I got what I expected, for that each time bucket. If, at midnight on the 20th of January, computer 1 had a max usage of 49, right? And computer 2 had a max usage of 75. The question that came up today, however, is, well, that's great, but I also want to know for that computer, what time did that max usage happen? Well, that became tricky. So I started thinking about this some, and we came up with some ideas. Now, this might be one way to approach it. Honestly, I threw around a whole bunch. This is just one way. So I know that first query is pretty quick. It gets me my 100 rows back. Actually, it gets back, let's see, there's 100 items, there's 24 hours, so there's actually 2,400 rows it gets back. So for every one of these rows, I want to know the time. Well, maybe I could join back to the CPU table. So I'm taking the exact same query, getting those 2,400 rows out, and then as a CTE, and then I'm going to join it to the CPU table, right? So basically back on itself. But even to do that, I can't just join back on, say, the tag ID. I actually need to join up on almost everything, right? I know the computer, the tag, so I make sure that I join based on, the CPU tag ID equals my inner CTE tag ID. That's not enough though. I need to know, it needs to match the actual value, right? So within each time bucket, I can't just randomly pick a value for that specific host. It needs to be the time of the same max reading, right? So now I got to go into every bucket, scan 60 rows for every single item to find the match of this high usage value. And then I need to make sure that for every bucket, I'm looking across that entire hour. Well, really, the only way I can do that is to say, I only have one value. I have the bucket value. We talked about this a few weeks ago. The value you get back as your time bucket aggregate, this time, is the beginning value of whatever your bucket time is. In this case, it's 1 hour. So my time down here is the beginning of the bucket. If I want to find where this usage value happened, it's somewhere in the entire hour. So it means greater than or equal to this value and less than or equal to 1 hour from that time, right? So this starts to get pretty complicated. This query, I'm actually going to run it so you can see it, but it takes a minute and 15 seconds. So I'm going to pause the video and let it run. This doesn't end up being a very efficient use of getting my max value and finding that time for what I need to use within my system. So let me run this and I'll pause the video and I'll be right back to show you the results. All right, so that query ran, and as I promised, it was a minute and 15 seconds. And I do get back almost what I expect. So I have my max value for every bucket of time for every tag, and I see a time at which that high reading happened. So it seems like I'm pretty close. The one problem is you might already start to see just at the very beginning is, let's say host number 3, tag ID number 3, there were 2 different times within that hour bucket that it had a high reading of 10. So I didn't just get 1 back, I got 2 back. So now if I wanted to go even further and only get the most recent one back or some combination thereof, I have to do even more work. So now maybe the solution would be, doing that CTE and doing a lateral join so that I could do an inner query and get just 1 value back based on the time. Now this might work, but again, it's more complex SQL and it still is going to take a while to run. It basically has to run for every one of those 2,400 values because I'm just doing 100 of these computer hosts. This gets kind of frustrating, quite honestly. I've been here, I've done this a lot. It just is a lot of work. So what can we do? So what we can say now is using something like the last function. Now, normally people have used this. I'm not even going to show it to you because it's not our use case. Normally people have used first and last, much like you would use that order by time, ascending or descending limit 1, right? Get me the most recent value within this bucket for this specific thing that I'm aggregating on. In this case, it'd be a computer or a tag. But what if I wanted to know the highest usage within that bucket and the time of that usage? Remember, that second value doesn't have to be time. It can be any column within the aggregation window of that hypertable. So I want to order it by usage user, the CPU usage of the user. Now, because I'm using last, it's going to do a sort descending. And so remember that getting these two values out took about 1 minute, 15 seconds otherwise. And now I run that query, and that took 200 milliseconds. And I get really what I expect. I get no repetition. So I'm getting a value back for every tag. I'm getting the high reading as I expected, and I'm getting a time that the high reading occurred. Now, for those astute watching, you may notice even tag ID 3 had two values in the previous query. This one had a value at 4 minutes after the hour and 5 minutes after the hour. Now, first and last is choosing one of them. And so if you needed to do even more work, that's where it might get a little bit more complicated depending on your use case. So I'm not trying to solve that problem initially in this exact video. There are other ways to get around this. You might have to get a more complex query at this point to start to understand and get that value. But this gets really close to what I want, and just that nugget alone was really exciting for me. But then my world got opened up even more. And so I want to leave us here, and I'll come back next week and talk about how you could use this, a form of something like this, particularly with continuous aggregates and the benefit and value it gets you. So it turns out that there's another little nugget with first and last. You can actually name the table, and this is a Postgres trick that I honestly never fully understood in context like this. It just never occurred to me to use it this way. What this does and gives you back a composite representation of that row from the table. Now, if I had, if I wanted to edit this video more, I would flash up a big warning right now. I'm not going to do that. This might not be the best thing for you to do in your specific use case. If you have a table with a lot of wide columns, a lot of text, a lot of JSON data, really huge columns, this might not be the path that you'd want to go. In this case, it's actually a neat little trick because I have numerical values that I'm saving for this time series data. And what this gives me back is a representation of each row, and you'll notice I'm doing not just last, but I'm doing first and last. So what this is going to give me is the row of the lowest CPU usage, everything about that lowest value, and the row for the highest CPU usage of each time bucket for each tag. This gets pretty exciting. So let me go ahead and run this. And now you see, and I'm going to go ahead and do a record view of this. I get both the low reading and the high reading within the time bucket for that hour for this tag and all the other tags that I had there. Wow, you can then start to unwrap this, and not only could I get just the highest low value for the CPU usage, but I could do it for any column, right? So now you really start to unlock. I could say, hey, when the CPU is the highest, what else was happening on that computer at that moment? What all of the other columns I'm tracking, and maybe I don't know instantly which ones I want to look at. This could get really exciting. That might look like this. So I'm using the exact same query as above. All right, and I have our two little tricks here, right? I'm ordering it by the usage, and I'm returning a representation of this row. Warning, warning, this might not be the best thing for your specific data. There are other ways around that, not for this video today. But now if I do that, this is how you unnest. Essentially, it's not an actual Postgres unnest, that's a separate function, but this is basically how you refer to the columns within the representation. So I'm returning that row as a column of low reading, so I put parentheses around it, and then I refer to the column I want. Now when I do that, I get one value for every single row. So those are the two big nuggets for today. Using something like first and last, you can actually order it by any column and select a column, and then depending on your data, One possibility might be that you actually could return the whole row or portions of that row in that first and last so that you have more data later to do something with. So think that through. I found that really exciting, and we're going to see some ways you can take this data next week and get value out of it. So hopefully that was helpful. Please subscribe to our channel down below. We are trying to post these videos at least once a week, and I think you'll see that there's going to start to be more activity. We might do a separate Postgres related video or stream once a week in the coming weeks. We might try and start that up. We might look at some new features dealing with new projects that we are putting out. There's a lot going on, and we know the video is a good way to get some of this across to you. So please subscribe. Come to slack.timescale.com to interact with us on our community channel. And as always, go look at the docs. We work really hard on them. And honestly, based on what I learned today, I will probably go update first and last documentation to talk about the ordering, the potential to order differently. So thank you for joining today. Hope this was helpful and opens up some new ideas for you and how you can use your data with Timescale. Take care.